We are jumping back into our homeschool routine, which means it is a new school year. We just got back from a massive travel time of a trip. We were gone for 16 days to Greece, and that means that coming home, we are starting a new school year, which means a whole new round of curriculum. So I wanted to show you guys what we are doing this year for school, and I'll talk a little bit about how it differs from what we've done in the past and kind of why we made some of those changes. If you don't know, we have 5 kids. They range all the way from 18 down to a year and a half, and so we have just the 3 that are in the middle that we're really doing a lot of stuff for school this year. The 18-year-old, he is actually basically graduated, so he will be working on some of the things with us, personal finance, and whenever we do our tea time and we work on the riches, so any kind of like art, any of that kind of stuff, you'll see what that looks like for us. This year, he'll do that sort of thing whenever he's not working or whenever he doesn't have a project at home that he's working on. So he is going to be building some stuff around the house for us. He's gonna be working, and then he's also still working on writing a novel. So he's working on, I think it's his 4th novel right now, and kind of finishing that up and perfecting that, and then hopefully pursuing his dream of writing. So that's kind of where he's at. And so for the most part, what we have is really for our 15-year-old, our 12-year-old, and our 6-year-old. But for the most part, our actual curriculum will just be for our 3 middle kids this year. But that is still a pretty big age range. So some of the things we'll be able to do together and some of the things they will have to do separately. So I will start with our youngest. So she is kind of between kindergarten and 1st grade, I guess. We don't really do grade levels per se. We just kind of work on what I can see the next skills that they need to learn are, or the next skills that we just really need a strong focus in. So for her, she kind of knows all of, well, she does know all of her letters and their sounds. And so we are gonna start working on really hardcore reading this year. So for her language arts is almost exclusively going to be just learning to read. So I grabbed this white clean workbook. I really like these for sight words. There are some words that you just have to know. They just appear enough in books that if you don't just know them, you're gonna get kind of tied up. So we do, I like to practice sight words with those. So words like the, is, it, some of them you can sound out, some of them you can't. But if you just know them, it's gonna make your life a lot easier. So we're gonna practice on sight words. And then I grabbed this James Harriet's Treasury for Children. This is just going to be a book that she and I read through. It's just some really sweet stories, very like cottagecore, which I love. The artwork in it is just really beautiful. So this will be, we will go through and read 1 or 2 of these stories a week. And as we go, as she notices words that she's seeing over and over, I will obviously include her in that. And so she's going to have a big part in reading this. And so my goal is at the beginning of the year, I will be reading it to her. And by the end of the year, she hopefully will be reading it to me. So as we go on that, I actually grabbed this book as well. And this, I found this at Dollar Tree. My sister found these actually. She got one for her daughter. And I loved it, and I searched every Dollar Tree until I found one. But it just is like a reading journal. So every story that we read, we will also fill this out for it. So it has title, author, rating, so out of 5 stars, what she thinks of it, how long it is, the genre, how long it took us to read it, her favorite character, her least favorite character, describe the book in 3 words, the most surprising moments. And then she will be working on her review. So we do a lot of narration, especially in the little years. We do a lot of narration. I love that. I love Charlotte Mason method when it comes to education anyway. So she will say that out loud to me, but I do want her to be able to actually practice writing with it as well. So for this year, I'm gonna have her writing her review of the story, and we'll talk about the difference between narration or summarizing and her review and what that looks like, and then favorite quotes. And so we have that for every single story. We will work on that. So she'll do probably two or three of these out of the week as well. So for her, that is her language arts. We're just practicing a lot of reading and a lot of narration and summarization and review. We're going to focus a big amount on what those three are and how they differ from each other. For math, I just grabbed this big math K through 1 book from Target. It starts with things like shapes, and it goes through like tracing numbers and counting and same and different and fewer and more. And then we go into addition and subtraction, counting money, color by number, working on telling time. So for her, the two big things that we will work on this year, three big things, I guess, that we'll work on this year will be simple addition. We will work on money, and then we will work on time. So for her, that is what her math is going to look like. That being said, we also have, so that's what she will do by herself. And then we have some things that my older kids and her will be able to do together. So for science this year, we are going to be going through a year of forest school. If you've never seen this book, I love this book. I've had it for a couple of years, and this is the first year that I am really making it a point to really sit down and work through it. So I'm very excited about it. It I guess could be geared more toward the younger kids. It is split up. Let's see if I can find the page. It's split up. We will start in the middle because it's autumn right now. So we will do all of the autumn activities, and we will pull. So this will be like my base, but this year our science is mostly going to be focused on seasons, and we're going to talk about eating seasonally, which we already kind of try to do as much as possible, but my kids are not as involved in that as my husband and I are. So we're pulling the kids in for that this year. So we're going to talk a lot about seasonal eating and seasonal gardening and just how our bodies and the world around us have this like cycle that we go through every single year and what that looks like. And so a year of forest school, I think that that's going to really hit home. Now, I am going to have to go through here, and because it is geared a little bit more toward the younger kids, my older girls, I'm going to have to kind of find some things to make it a little bit more on their grade level. So that's how we will get by with doing science as a whole family. So as we come up with some things, I might have them maybe like write an essay on, I don't know, something that we found. So, and actually, so I have this, and then I have Play the Forest School Way. So it's like a companion that goes with it. One of the things that I found in here is, so there's like a scavenger hunt, and we'll copy this page for each kid, and then they'll go out and find it. And so then one of the things I will do is, that's gonna be it for my younger kid, but my two older girls that are also doing it, I will have them choose one of the things that's on the scavenger hunt, and they will write a short paper or an essay about that and why, you know, it's like that in this particular season and what that certain thing looks like throughout the rest of the year. So for example, something green, if what they find is like a pine needle, because, you know, when we do this, it may be like winter. So if what they find is a pine needle, or if we do it in autumn and there's a leaf, then we'll talk about like why it's green then, but it isn't green the rest of the year. And then I'm gonna have them do their own research, and they will write me an essay. They'll write themselves an essay because it's for them to learn on what that's gonna look like the rest of the year. So that's kind of how we will break that up into it being not just only geared toward little kids. It is a little bit more work on my part but it's really fun to be able to kind of do all of those things as a family. So I will say we do not live in a forest. So if you like the idea of this book, but you think, oh, I live in town, how am I going to do this? We actually we have a 2-acre farm, but it is at the end of a housing addition. So we also don't live in a forest. So we're just gonna have to get creative, and we can go into parks, we can go into our fields, our pasture, and kind of see what we can find to go along with it. Or we might just do it, hey, here's what it looks like in a forest from videos or whatever, but talk about how it's different than the ecosystem that is in our own backyard. So lots of options with that. Really excited about that. It's gonna be a lot of little games and crafts and stuff. My kids love science, so that's really fun. The other thing that my little one and my older girls have in common that they're doing are the riches. And this is one of the things that my son, who's 18, he will also be involved in at any time that he can be, because we only will do it 2 or 3 days a week, kind of depending upon what our schedule looks like. And then the baby, I will also get her involved as much as possible. And so we will have this split up into 3 different sections. Because I always split our school up into 3 different sections, my sister showed me these, A Child's Introduction to books, and I fell in love. So we have A Child's Introduction to the Night Sky, A Child's Introduction to Orchestra, and A Child's Introduction to Art. So for our tea time, which sounds a lot fancier than it really is, really I will just bake like a batch of baguettes or some hot rolls or something. We like to have some fresh fruit, and then I always try to do a fun cheese. I don't know, my kids really like cheese. So we go with that. So I go to Aldi and I grab just a handful of kind of special cheeses, and we slice that up. I like to have homemade bread if possible, but if not, we'll have crackers and some sort of fresh fruit. And that's our tea time. We'll sit down in the afternoon. It's sort of a reset for our day. And while we're doing that, we will be going through these books, studying one of these 3 things. And then by the end of the year, my goal is that we will be heading maybe to California, I'm not sure yet, and going to a museum, live orchestra, and a planetarium. So really fun activity at the end of the year. But in the meantime, we'll be going through these books. So A Child's Introduction, as my sister puts it, just means that it breaks it down easy enough for me to be able to teach it. So it's just going to break down whatever subject it is that we are going through. And then it does like this one's a really fun one actually. It does some like fun activities to help you kind of appreciate what was required of that artist at the time. That's the same as orchestra, and then the night sky will help us to have a better understanding of like constellations and the way the earth moves and that sort of thing. But for example, so we will study the Sistine Chapel, which we've been to, so my kids will have like an understanding, I guess, of that because we've traveled to it. But then talk about how Michelangelo had to lay upside down, like lay on his back and paint it upside down. And so they will get underneath the table, and we will tape paper up on the bottom of the table, and they will practice their painting skills to see how good they would be at painting the Sistine Chapel. So it's just some really fun like history, adding history in, and then some art things, understanding art, understanding artists. For orchestra, one of the things that we will do is we will listen to different orchestras and listen to different composers as we go through it, and try to really make an effort to hear the difference in how those composers sound. So at the end of that particular section, I would like my kids to be able to hear a piece of classical music and have a good idea of who wrote that and how they can tell that that's different from, say, another artist. So that is everything that my littlest one that is in school, my 6-year-old, is going to be doing. Everything else is language arts and some discipleship stuff and math for my older girls. So both of my older girls are pretty much on the same level. I've tried to do that as much as possible since they started school, because they are so much closer in age. It just makes it easier for them, easier for me, and they seem to enjoy it more because they're getting to kind of do stuff together as much as possible, and they love that. One of the things that we are going to be working through is this book, this Bread of Life book. It is a discipleship book by Abigail Dodds. I adore this book. It is so fun. It goes week by week. I will actually include my son in this as well. And it is a book about bread. The first chapter is called Why This Book Has Nothing and Everything to Do with Your Diet, which I think is really fun. But every week it goes through some things to read. We'll read scripture together. There are discussion questions, and then there is a bread recipe. So every week we will go through that discipleship part and read that scripture together and go through those discussion questions together, and then we will bake this bread together. By the end of it, so I actually have been baking bread for a very long time, so I am very proficient in it, but my girls are just learning, and so I thought this is such a fun way for them to really dig into it. And there is such a spiritual connection for bread for me. Our daily bread is so important, right? In scripture, and just the connection that has for me personally, and how the Lord has used that in my life. And so I really want to pass that down. So this will be a really good way. I hope to do that. I pray to do that. So we have everything all the way from artisan bread for beginners to the very end. I think the very end one is we are making like some holiday chocolate babka breads I've never made before. And then we're making like sourdough and making a sourdough starter. Lots and lots of different kinds of bread. So they are going to be at the end of this, hopefully, growing in the word, but then also growing in their skills in the kitchen. So really excited about that. My son, who is the 18-year-old, he also wants to do this because he has been wanting to learn how to bake bread for a long time. So pretty excited about that one. So that is what my girls are doing for Bible. And then they will also, of course, be doing science with us, and then be doing the riches with us. Now, for their math, I have used the Mennonite math for a really long time, and we really love it. But last year we took a break from that because I could see that they needed some practice on multiplication. So we spent the entire school year last year just practicing multiplication, and it made such a huge difference in what their skill level was and what they were able to do with that. How quickly they could spout stuff off and that sort of thing. And so it was really beneficial. So I wanted to just kind of keep going with that. Just like how with my youngest, I can kind of see what skills are necessary at her age, and then we can work very specifically on those skills. That is what I am doing with my older girls for math this year as well. So last year we worked very extensively on multiplication, and this year we are working very extensively on decimals, percentages, and fractions. We will also do some personal finance, which I did not bring that book in here, but we still have personal finance books that we are working through. So that will be a part of it as well, which I think will go really well with the decimals and percentages and fractions. And then just a lot of division as well. So because we worked so exclusively on multiplication last year, that's one that I could see that we needed to spend a lot of time on this year. So that is what their math is going to look like. We were actually sent this colorful magnetic fraction decimal percentage circles and tiles. This is going to be really fun to add to that. Pretty excited to use that. Thank you so much to Simple Magic Homeschool for that one. We are sticking with these books for right now. We'll see at the end of this year if I look through those other books and feel like that maybe we can rush along a little bit more on the skills and jump back into those books, or if this is just working well enough for us that we're going to stick with that. So not sure, but last year was so successful that I want to stick with that again. Another thing that we will continue to do this year are our family journals. If you don't know what those are, I've talked about that in previous videos before as well. It's just a journal where every day my kids will write a little something to me, and then I will go back and write something back to them. And we just keep that going. It's a really fun way to have some open lines of communication that are just for me and that kid. So really love that. Really excited to jump back into that. Definitely miss that when we don't do it. And then for language arts, so I got this one for my little girl, and I saw these at Target and I adore them. I don't know if I'm saying this word right. Hey Pierre? I don't know if that's how you say it, but I have a cookbook journal from them that I really, really love. It's so beautiful. So when I saw this reading journal, I knew I had to get it for my girls. So much like the one that I have for my little girl, this one has several pages, kind of a more in-depth, what this is what this is. So for language arts this year, we are going to work on how to find good reading material, how to find good books. And so we're starting with a library card and these books, and I'm going to help them find books that are classics and books that are beneficial for them, and books that they genuinely enjoy to read. And then through that, we will go through, again, we'll talk about the difference between review and summarization, narration, but they will go through and be able to answer all of these questions. I will fully expect them to be taking notes as they go through. We will talk about like themes and, characters and traits and all of those things as we go through. But my hope is that they will just be reading a lot this year. So we have done in the past, we've done a lot of Progeny Press, which I really, really, really love them. And it is definitely something that we will ultimately go back to. But when we do those, they go through 3 books a year. They will read 3 books through the entire school year. And I want this year for them to really focus a little bit more on finding what they enjoy reading and what they kind of gain a lot from. So it's going to be quantity to find quality, rather than just focusing on those 3 books and digging deeply into each one. So I'm pretty excited about that. Got one for each of my girls, and we will do a once-a-week trip to the library, and they will read a book a week. That's my goal for them. So that's kind of what our homeschool looks like this year. It is fairly simple, if I'm honest, but when we are doing 3 kids, plus we have a baby, and my oldest is working on lots of projects that he will need a little help here and there from me. We kind of have to keep it simple. So in addition to all of that, we also have all of our homestead and our farm stuff that we're working on too. And so of course we're constantly learning as we go through all of those things. So that is what our homeschool curriculum looks like this year. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them down below. But other than that, I will kind of keep you guys posted. I plan to show a lot of the forest school stuff. And then I will keep you updated to let you know how we enjoy everything else. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.